We all know it's possible to do a DIY badly, but is it possible to do a DIY too well? I think it is, because I have been trying to take this deck apart for a couple of days, and it is giving me all sorts of trouble. I've been using all sorts of tools: drills, hand saws, electric saws, my feet, but it really was tricky to get apart. These big red flagstones that you can see used to be in this garden when I moved in. I didn't have any use for them and nobody wanted to buy them, so I decided to put them underneath the deck for two reasons. One, it was a very convenient place to hide them, and two, it keeps the weed barrier down and it stops things from growing. So I'm going to keep these and I'm going to reuse them when I come to rebuild the new deck. I carefully pulled up this weed barrier. It looked like it was in reasonably good condition, and I think I will reuse the parts that aren't ripped or haven't been made into a rat's bed. There was also a bunch of stones under here that I'm putting to one side because I think I might need these a little bit later. You'll find out why in this series soon enough. The stones that I'm putting aside are limestone. They're really pretty. I had loads left over when I removed the wall from the basement. Limestone is the majority of what my house is made out of, which means it stays super cosy in winter and is insufferably hot in summer. A day in the life of a creator where I have to put my phone in the fridge because it's too hot. My materials have arrived for doing the deck. I'm still waiting for the pieces of deck itself, which is not uncommon when you're getting delivery from a store. They might not have them in stock in your local store, so they'll end up sending them out from different locations. They might not come together. But fingers crossed they come today. If not, I can at the very least start to make a start on the rest of the deck. It's a little bit of a risk because I don't know if and when the decking boards are coming today. So if I do go into the garden and start on this, I'm taking the risk at maybe missing them. So I can hear my door from the garden, so it's not ideal, but perhaps I'll leave the back door open and just cross my fingers. And I'm also just trying to seek more information about whether or not they are coming today or a different day. But let's see if I can try and, at the very least, get the rest of the deck down and put some sheeting down so that I'm ready to go. I'm loving my optimism. I love the fact that I think I'm going to get to the point of putting down a weed barrier that is so much further along than I am right now. Now that I've removed the inner part of the frame, it's time to remove these 4 outside pieces as well as the corner posts and the concrete blocks that they have been fixed into. This first piece came out really easy, and that's what's called false hope. False hope. None of the rest of them were like that. I took to randomly hammering and sawing any parts that felt like they might be loose to see if I could just get a start somewhere. I sawed through this piece and thought I could just hammer it out. I was wrong. It wasn't working. I heard a minor noise and now I'm panicked that it's the front door, so I have to go and check to satisfy myself that it's not. Nope, nobody at the door. There we go. Oh, that was effort. The next part of this video is about 17 seconds long, but this took me over an hour. When you're doing any project, be that in your house or in the garden, it's always a really good idea to start with removing anything you don't need, removing all of the rubbish. Say you were renovating a room and there was a stud wall you didn't need, you would take that down first before you start decorating or moving on to the next steps. That's why I'm so focused on clearing all of the wood from this project, because then once it's out of the way, I can start on the next bit. Having said that, as you can see, I'm already starting to dig the holes for the new fence posts. And this is just because I was going a little bit stir crazy trying to break all of these bits apart. The reason that bit I'm working on right now is so stuck in place is because I actually concreted it in place. I didn't want the wood to touch the soil or the grass, and so I placed concrete around it so that it wouldn't touch the grass. I don't think I explained that very well, but I mean, it made sense at the time. These fence posts are stuck into concrete, or postcrete is what I used when I put these into place, and so they're absolutely solid. I don't really want to dig them out, because if I do, it'll create a really large hole that I'll have to backfill with some soil to create the new holes. Perhaps not for the ones on the left, but the ones on the right are going back in the same position. As I was digging this hole, it reminded me of a story when, as a child, I went into my back garden at my parents' house and thought, I wonder if I could dig down a whole metre. I must have been about 10. So I lifted up one of the paving stones and I started to dig. I thought maybe I might find some treasure. I'd maybe made it about 20-30 centimetres down before I looked around me and realised that I'd made quite a lot of mess. And I had a shocking, sudden realisation that if my dad came out into the garden at that moment, I would get into a lot of trouble. But I thought, it's fine, I can fix this. I'll just put all the soil back in the hole, stick the slabstone on top, and he'll never know. But just as I'd decided that I was going to clear up this mess and hide my little adventure, I looked up to see that my dad had walked out into the garden to find a number of slabstones turned up the wrong way and soil everywhere. And, I think most importantly, absolutely no treasure. I've never found any treasure in this garden, but I did find some treasure in my basement. I was digging out some of the soil so that a small path could be head height, and found a couple of segments of broken glass that would have been thrown into the soil when this house was built in 1880. And that I did find very exciting. The way that I was able to eventually remove some of these fence posts was by wiggling them. I used the hammer on every side to try and give the fence post a bit of movement to dislodge it from its stuck position. And then once I was there, I was able to wiggle it out of place, moving it back and forward until it eventually freed itself. Tell you what, I meant that huff. This bit feels quite damp, and it feels like it's on the brink of rotting. But it's still in fairly good nick. You see the wood has changed slightly here, and it's covered in sand. That is from the postcrete that I originally used for that hole. I realised these slab stones that I'd put aside, I'd not put aside quite enough aside because they were in the way, so I had to move them all. The reason they're in the way is because that's almost the exact location that the new fence post is going to be positioned. I'm going to slow this bit down for you because just because I've had a really tough day trying to do all of this doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the really satisfying parts in sequence. Just one after another, all the good bits. As you can see, something is moving, making some sort of progress. But wait for it, it gets better. Oh yeah. Okay, I think I'm done with that hole for a minute. Let's have a look at this hole. Now this is probably the first time that you can see this, but that wall on the left, it has no lower part of the wall. And by that I mean, do you see where the red bricks are? Those red bricks are supposed to be continuing all the way along underneath the yellow bricks, but it's not. I have to replace the bottom part of the wall. I'll show you some better footage later, but it's just missing. The wiggle technique was just not working here, so I was like, okay, new corner. So I tried a little bit of digging, gave it a few taps, tried a few wiggles, and gave up. Ooh, what about this corner? Oh goodness. I got as far as I could. I don't have any more in me today. I leveled up the ground to get rid of any big stones, but mostly because I think it looks nice. And I escaped back in the house, ready for the next day. And since I filmed this yesterday, I can also tell you that I left all of my power tools in the garden overnight. Now that's tired. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.